Hello, friends. My name is Brian. My friends call me BG, and this is BG by the Beach. We are now sitting here about a week after Valentine's Day. If you've watched any of my other videos, you know kind of what the situation around here is. My fiance passed away 4 years ago. Sometimes the tough moments are predictable. I'm kind of realizing now that there's kind of like a grief black hole at the first part of the year. She died in November, so obviously, November 21st, bad day. Thanksgiving, Christmas, the holidays are tough. It's because you're imagining what could have been, what should have been, that kind of thing. And then oftentimes when you get to the new year, it's like, okay, fresh start. But then in our situation, in my situation, you get to mid-January, it's her birthday. I try to make her birthday a happy day, just remembering good things and celebrating the life we had and not the end, really. But it's an emotionally charged day. And then a month later is Valentine's Day. I spend a lot of time trying to understand the ununderstandable. There's nothing to understand. I've said it before, there's no such thing as closure. There's just learning to adjust and live with the new reality that you're in. When it comes to emotions and feelings, I try to understand them. I try to understand where they're coming from. And I think what I'm realizing is, January 15th through February 14th is kind of a tough month because it's all, goes from her birthday through a day that celebrates love and relationships. That kind of sucks. Sometimes the tough moments are predictable. It's taken me some time to gather my thoughts about Valentine's Day, and I wrote a little bit about it in the week leading up to it, and I wanted to talk about it, and hard to talk about, it has been a time to start the year. And I think understanding, just the timing of it all from November 21st through the holidays, through her birthday in January, and then through Valentine's Day, it's like, no wonder I have been feeling the way I've been feeling. There's little triggers all over the place, aren't there? Anything can be a trigger. In my quest to understand things, I talk to a lot of people about what they're feeling. I talk to people who have gone through similar things. One of my favorite things that I've discovered, Anderson Cooper has a podcast called All There Is. It's just an amazing podcast about grief and talking about how grief is one of the few truly universal feelings. Almost everybody who has ever lived will experience losing someone. It's a communal experience. However, the way that our society has evolved in the last several decades, we've taken the community out of that experience. And so people who are grieving can often feel alone. A small thing that I like to try to do whenever I see posts on social media about somebody who's lost someone, if I don't comment, I'll at least put, a little care reaction on it. I mean, it's not a lot, but you're not alone. We are not alone. I'm not alone. Anderson Cooper's podcast is a really, really great. One of the reasons why it's really great is because it's high profile. And it gets high profile people talking about this experience. The last episode this past week was a country singer named Eric Church talking about his experience with grief. The one that has stuck with me recently was the episode before that. The guest on that episode was Megan Falley, the wife of the late poet Andrea Gibson, who died at 48 years old last year. Megan talking about on what would have been Andrea's 50th birthday. She wrote of how Andrea wanted to be old. Couldn't wait to get older, couldn't wait to hit their 50s. Friends would complain about the signs of aging, but Megan and Andrea would never. Quote, "What is more valuable than silver in a loved one's hair?" I feel that pretty deeply. I think if you just look at my face as I look over at the screen here. There's a little more gray than there used to be. Certainly more gray than there was before Morgan died. Some of that is because I'm in my early 40s now, and some of it is the stress of grief. The patches of gray don't bother me. Maybe the way they used to, or the way they might have been, because it means I'm here. What I would give to hear Morgan complain about finding her first gray hair before she inevitably dyed her hair bright green. Anyway, I moved to Southwest Florida almost exactly 3 years ago, in part because I just knew I couldn't stay in the apartment that Morgan and I shared anymore. And I went to Charleston for her. If she's not there, what am I doing? Sometimes I feel such a surge of energy and hope living where I live and doing the things I do. Sometimes I feel like I haven't escaped the husk of the life that we had of what almost was. Before Andrea died, they wrote a poem called Love Letter from the Afterlife, and I cannot recommend enough that you read it. Anderson and Megan talked about it on the podcast. Here's a little bit from it. My love, I was so wrong. Dying is the opposite of leaving. When I left my body, I did not go away. That portal of light was not a portal to elsewhere, but a portal to here. I am more here than I ever was before. I am more with you than I ever could have imagined. So close you look past me when wondering where I am. Here's another piece. Why did no one tell us that to die is to be reincarnated in those we love while they are still alive? Ask me the altitude of heaven and I will answer, how tall are you? It's stunning. It is stunning. Morgan and I had one Valentine's Day together. It was February 2021, and so many places weren't really open all the way yet, trying to come out of COVID. So still close to indoor experiences. We decided to order food from a nice restaurant and get dressed up like we were going out. Let's make it feel like a special occasion, you know? I obviously wasn't from Charleston. Hadn't been living in Charleston, so I didn't really know. So we found a nice Italian restaurant on Uber Eats that was delivering on Valentine's Day, scheduled an order for later that night, figuring we'd have more luck planning in advance. Something I've mentioned in passing before. Morgan had a very casual relationship with time. I never cared how long it took her to get ready. It takes however long it takes. It'd take 3 business days to get ready. I don't care. Just start getting ready 3 business days before we have to leave then. Mixed success on that. We were going to go to a comedy show to see a comedian I love named Jared Freed. And the show was at 7 or 7:30 that night. And I remember looking at her at noon and going, I mean this as respectfully as I can, but I'd like to leave in 6 hours. We were still a little late, but it was the effort that counted. And in this case, on Valentine's Day, we're having the food delivered. We don't have a reservation we have to meet. The food's going to arrive, and then it's going to start to get cold. That was the issue. She gets in the shower around 4 p.m. Okay, seems normal enough. I figure it's going to take 45 minutes to an hour in the shower, and maybe another hour and a half to get ready after that. That puts us, around 7 at the latest, hopefully. The food was scheduled to arrive at 7:30, so we're in good shape. This is where the narrator breaks in to say they were not in good shape. Shower lasted as long as I thought it would. She went into her vanity room and shut the door, saying she wanted the full reveal of her look to be a surprise later on. So by 6:30, I'm thinking, well, we must be close. We were not. But I took my shower, I shaved, got dressed, dress pants, button-down shirt, nice shoes, and then I went to work getting the table ready. Food's going to come. I'll get it all plated up. We'll be ready to go. I set the table, poured glasses of ice water and wine, thinking we'd sit together and have a glass of wine or two while we waited for the food to arrive. So I sat, and I sat. I go and knock on the door. You doing okay in there? Oh yeah, just finishing up my eyebrows. Then I just need to curl my hair. The word just implied that we were close. We were not close. Just don't say the word just, it never really bothered me. It's fine, but it's just fun to think back on now. 7 turns into 7:30, which turned into 8. I'm watching the ice melt in our glasses. Luckily for us, the restaurant canceled our food order. So right when it was supposed to arrive, I get a notification that the order had been canceled. So now I'm in a panic because it's our first Valentine's Day, and I want it to be special. I want to make a good impression, and it's collapsing around us. Like I said, I was still new to Charleston, so I wasn't really super familiar with all the restaurants. I'm Googling, I'm looking on Google Maps, I'm looking on Uber Eats and trying to find another option. And I'm like sitting at the foot of the door, just shouting through the door. She's tossing out ideas and I'm looking it up. And, obviously at this point it's, 7:30 at night on Valentine's Day night. It's difficult to find restaurants that have space for another order at that stage. This is why I thought we were in good shape when we placed our order, at 11 a.m. for delivery later. Like, all right, we're in under the wire. This is great. So we're at the door tossing ideas back and forth and finally find a restaurant that is both open and still taking orders. It's a restaurant called Wild Olive on Johns Island in Charleston. Food's going to be ready at 9 p.m. I'm going to go pick it up, eliminate some variables. I left at 8:45 and Morgan was still locked in her room getting ready. Surely we'll be good by the time I get home. After all, she just had to do a couple of things. Got back home around 9:15 with the food. The door is still closed. And I knock on the door and, babe, the food's here. What's going on in there? Are you electing a new pope? What's happening? And she says, just put the food in the oven to stay warm. I'll be right out. 30 minutes later at 9:45, nearly 6 hours after she started getting ready, she emerged with flawless hair and makeup. She looked amazing. Of course she did. It's one of those times where you let out an involuntary wow. I spent that entire year we lived together walking around like the hard eyes emoji. But this was another level even for her. Dinner was incredible. We enjoyed the food, the wine, the conversation, each other. We needed nothing but each other when we were together. And we toasted to our first Valentine's Day and to each other and to our lives together and to having actually found our soulmates and to the many decades that we would have together going forward. We had less than 9 months left. It never ceases to be strange to imagine what might have been. Where would we be living now? Would we have gotten that dog we were talking about? What might the wedding have been like? Where would the wedding have been? Would we have gotten a DJ? Would we have found a band? We had names for kids picked out. Would we be using those names now? Back to Andrea's poem. Andrea closed the poem like this. I promise one day you will say it too. I can't believe I ever thought I could lose you. And I think that's why, well, I've said it before, it's one of the reasons why I write about her and us. This. Why I make these videos every so often. As long as I'm here, no one will ever lose you. And that's kind of the job of all of us who are left behind. You lose someone, you make sure nobody forgets. You make sure that people still know them, know her, meet her. People still meet her because of me, because of her family, because of her friends who talk about her to people who didn't know her. There are people out there now who didn't know her before she died, who now know about her because of the stories I tell, because of the stories her sisters tell, and the stories her friends tell. I haven't loved Valentine's Day in a little while, but that Valentine's Day we had was a good one. I remember it very fondly. I just wanted to talk about her some more, and I just wanted to talk about Valentine's Day a little bit. You're still here. Thank you for listening, and please tell me your stories. That's how we keep them alive. Who did you lose? What did that person mean to you? Keep telling their stories. I'll see you next time.